going to require some audience participation at the very beginning. So you ready? Okay, so I need you to raise your hand if these things describe you. Okay, now raise your hand if you formed your own model United Nations out of your dolls when you were a child. Oh, it's just not me, okay. Raise your hand if you actually decided that you were also going to be mayor of your small town of dolls in your home. Now, this Barbie doll was not available back in the 80s when I was growing up, hence that's why this is such a great thing right now that I see this. Raise your hand if you were the one that was always on your block forming the double dutch team, forming the kickball team, forming the softball team. All right, we have a few of y'all in here. Raise your hand if you were the captain of your varsity cheerleading team, if you were the captain of your varsity basketball team, if you did any sports in high school, raise your hand. Okay. Raise your hand if you served as the class president, SGA president while you were in high school. Okay. Raise your hand if you were always the responsible one. You know, the one that in your house, oh, a lot of you out there, okay. If you were the one that when your parents went to the store, you had to be responsible for all your siblings or cousins, etc. All right. And then I want you to raise your hand if you went abroad at some point before the age of 23. Maybe you did a study abroad program. Awesome. Raise your hand if you served as an activist or humanitarian of some sort at a very young age. Very good. So let me tell you a story of my own that got me to where I am today. I actually served as an ambassador for a woman that was actually just deserving of a role when I was a child. So I went to a high school that was pretty troubled. It was Hempstead High School, located in New York. And we were on the cover of New York Newsday, Long Island Newsday. And we were on the cover serving as the most troubled school in Long Island. So it was not a nice thing that we were on the cover for. And at the time that I was there, we had about 4 different principals in one single year. My mother and I went to a board meeting. And at that board meeting, they were considering a woman to be the principal of the school next. And they were going back and forth about the merits of her being in that role. So I got up out of my chair, I was 14 years old, went to the mic and I said, well, you've had 4 men and they failed you, why not a woman? At that, Dr. Barbara Thompson looked right at me. She said, I'm going to keep my eye on this one. And she did. A few days later, and I was serious, I went to her office with 9 pages of legal pads and information that I wanted her to do differently about the school. And I had suggestions and programs that we implemented, and by the time I got to my senior year, we had done every single thing that was on those sheets of paper. That's how I got my introduction to leadership, and that's why that's become my lifelong involvement. But every one of us has a story. Each of us has a leadership story, and a lot of it got started when we were children. So I want to talk with you a little bit about legacy. Legacy is that thing that, it's that essence about you. It's that spirit within you. That when you enter a room or have a human encounter, it goes into the room with you. You also want to see that very thing be multiplied every single time you enter into a human interaction. And you want to make sure that it stays there after you have long left. So, I've been in the cottage industry of organizational and leadership development for about 15 years. And over that time, I've designed programs, I've facilitated workshops, done many, many different things in that area. But what has amazed me most as you go throughout that time is that you begin to see a lot of people go through different types of transformations. And transformational leadership just takes time. Now, there are some people, like Oprah Winfrey, who has become committed to absolutely developing herself as a leader and committed to developing others. And you see it in the way that she does her work. And leadership development is a process. It takes time. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years, and you really have to commit to the fact that it is a lifelong kind of journey. Then there are times we have other people who take the more scenic route to leadership development. Here's a picture of Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher actually was the prime minister for many years, but what she did not do very well is the fault that you see with many leaders who seem to be successful. They never reach their fullest potential. And that with Margaret Thatcher, she had a change in her leadership, change in things that was happening along within her cabinet, and she did not sense what would be next for her, what would be next for her organization, next for the country. And what we all have to be able to do is understand as leaders that we always are in a process of development. And so is the people, and so are the people that we also are serving at the same time. Sometimes, however, the reasons why we are not successful has nothing to do with us. Sometimes it has a lot to do with the people that we're in organizations with. So I heard some conversation earlier that connects very much with what I'm going to talk with you about, and that is bias. Sometimes we're in positions wherein you're the only one that did not go to the same school as everyone else. Maybe they went to Princeton, maybe they went to Tech, maybe they went to Stanford, but you did not go to the same school, so they all formed a group based around that one single association. And that does happen. Perhaps it is the fact that you've gotten into your career, you simply have gotten stuck. You're in your one position and you're not going anywhere else. Maybe you got pregnant, came back to the office, and now everyone thinks that your mind as well as your body is excavated one human being. So now you're no longer mentally present, they don't believe that you are there, and they think that you also, now that you're a mother, you're not really as committed to the organization. Those kind of things really do happen. At the same time, however, there are also women who are also in our way within organizations. Sometimes there are women who have been to the school of hard knocks, and they're interested in making sure that those who come behind them also attend the very same school that they went to, the school of the hard knocks. But what I want to do today, what I want to offer today are 4 leadership life hacks. 4 things that I believe will really help you be excelling in everything that you do, and be excellent in everything that you do as a leader. So the first thing that you see here, in that slide deck that I had just before, we had a group of leaders, and those are the executives within your company. Perhaps you are that CEO, maybe you are the executive, but I want you to begin to think like the executive in your company. What are the values? What are the competencies that you are espousing within your organization? Those values, those competencies, how are you hearing them within everything that you're hearing executives talk about? When you have a meeting with your manager, they're not always talking with you with just their one voice. It's never always just personal. They're speaking to you from the voices of those who are above them within the organization.